And so today we are going to be doing a video that has been on my radar to do for a while. In fact, I had actually thought about doing this on Instagram even before I had started my YouTube channel, and that is a dupes video for Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks. Now, I will admit that Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks are kind of my favorite luxury splurgy item. I've never really gotten into some of the other luxury brands like Tom Ford or Dior or YSL, but for some reason, something about these Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks just call to me. I think it has a lot to do with the packaging. It's kind of this rose gold vintage looking lipstick container. I just think it is absolutely beautiful, and for some reason this is like my splurgy item. Like every time I want to splurge on a new lipstick, I always think in my head like, ooh, what Charlotte Tilbury lipstick don't I have? But I also recognize that not only are these expensive lipsticks, oftentimes they're very hard to find locally. She has very few counters in Nordstrom stores across the country. So if you're looking for one of her lipsticks, A, it's going to have to be in a Nordstrom, and B, it's only going to be in a handful of them across the country. I was actually talking to a Charlotte Tilbury sales rep at their counter in Scottsdale, Arizona. We go out there every year for Christmas, and so that's kind of been where I've gone to pick up lipsticks. But he was saying that Charlotte Tilbury is actually hand selecting all of the locations that Nordstrom puts her counters into. So it's not that every Nordstrom in the world is just going to automatically get Charlotte Tilbury. She's being very kind of exclusive about where she puts her counters throughout the country. For me, there's nothing near me. So that means I either have to order online and hope it's a shade that I like after seeing different kinds of swatches, or B, wait till I'm traveling to a location that happens to have a counter. So I also realize that that is not practical for everyone. So for the combination of both a high expensive price point and then also just some inaccessibility here, especially in the United States, I thought it would be fun to see if I could find dupes for all of the Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks that I own. I actually own 8 different shades of Charlotte Tilbury lipsticks, and I think I've done a pretty good job of finding colors that are really good dupes for her lipsticks. I did want to call out one thing. As you think about the term dupe, you can sometimes dupe a formula, you can dupe a color, you can try and do both. Whenever possible, I've tried to do both, but for me, the biggest thing was shade. So could I find a shade that matched the Charlotte Tilbury lipstick as closely as possible? I'm going to also put a link to a corresponding blog post down below because I wanted to give you guys an easy place to pin some images to Pinterest or print out or bookmark. So if you're looking to perhaps pick up one of these dupe shades at the store, you had an easy way to find those colors besides refreshing and rewatching this video. So hopefully you guys are excited by today's video, and without further ado, let's get into some swatches. Okay, so we're going to go from light to dark as far as my Charlotte Tilbury lipstick colors, and hands down the lightest shade that I have is Kim KW. Now she being Charlotte Tilbury, did a line of lipsticks inspired by different celebrities that she has worked on over the years. So there's a whole line of lipsticks named after different celebrities she has worked on, and obviously this one is Kim Kardashian West. Now this shade is a very, very light peach color. Now this is one of the shades that's so light on me that I kind of have to put a liner with it, either underneath it or on the outside of my lips in order to make it work. But I think it's a really beautiful light apricot color that still doesn't quite wash me out completely the way that a lot of these really, really light shades do. It's one of her satin finish formulas. Now the closest shade I've been able to find is actually from E.L.F, and this is a matte lip pencil. This is in the shade Nearly Nude, and I really like these lip pencils from E.L.F. They are a matte formula, but they are very comfortable and creamy on the lips. As you can see here, this shade is close to Kim KW, but it might actually be a hair lighter, but the undertone is actually really, really pretty. If you wanted to try one of these kind of very light pale apricot nudes, but you weren't sure how it was going to look on your skin tone, I would highly recommend picking up one of these little E.L.F ones. These little guys are only $3, so they're also incredibly affordable. I think this is a great option for you for Kim KW. Next Charlotte Tilbury shade is another nude, and this is the nude in Bitch Perfect. This is another one of her sort of creamy satin formats, and this was one of the first lipsticks I bought from her because I definitely felt like I wanted a nude in my life. If you feel like Kim KW is just a little bit too light for you and you want something that's in that same tone family but just maybe like a shade or two deeper, I would absolutely recommend Bitch Perfect. And the closest dupe that I've been able to find is actually from Rimmel Kate. This is the shade 42. This is from their nude line. So 42 is very, very similar to Bitch Perfect. I would just say that it is maybe a hair less warm. And maybe a little bit more, I would say, neutral. Now it's still a warm nude, but sitting next to the Bitch Perfect shade, I definitely think it looks a smidge more neutral, but it's really, really, really close. This has the same sort of satin finish, and I think if you were gonna wear either of these two shades, you wouldn't notice a ton of difference between the two of them. So I think this is a pretty good shade match. So one of the makeup products that Charlotte Tilbury is absolutely known for is her lip liner in Pillow Talk. I've heard so many people talk about it, and it's this beautiful, very pinky nude color. I own that lip pencil. I absolutely adore it. And then last year, she launched a lipstick in the exact same color. So there is now a Pillow Talk lipstick in her matte formula, and it is gorgeous. Now, I really like her matte formula. Her matte formulas look matte on the lips, but they are very creamy feeling and almost lightly hydrating, so they never feel uncomfortable, but they give a very soft matte look on your lips. So the tone of this definitely has a more pinky undertone versus that sort of peachy warm undertone of the last two shades. For those of you who are looking for more of a mid-toned nude, I think this is a great option, especially if you like those more pinky tone versus warm toned nudes. Now I have a lipstick formula that's a pretty close shade match, but then I have a slightly different format that I want to talk about that I think is almost spot on. So the lipstick format is another Rimmel Kate line. So I get the feeling that perhaps Rimmel looks at some of the products that Charlotte Tilbury is doing and tries to dupe some things. That's been my experience, at least. I don't know if that's intentional on Rimmel's part or not. They are both London-based beauty companies, so I don't think it's that far of a stretch to say they might be duping Charlotte Tilbury. But the shade here is number 55, My Nude. The biggest differences between this and the Charlotte Tilbury are two. One, this one is more of a satin versus a matte, so it's slightly glossier. And then two, it's just ever a tinge less pink than the Charlotte Tilbury. So it's got a little bit more warmth in it, but even still, I think these are very, very, very similar shades, and I don't think you would be disappointed with this My Nude shade from Rimmel. Now, if you really want to dupe Charlotte Tilbury's Pillow Talk lipstick 100%, I'm actually going to recommend something that's not drugstore, but is still about half the price of her lipsticks, and that is one of these Bare Minerals Gen Nude liquid lipsticks. The formula on this is just really lovely. It's a light moussey texture. It does dry down matte, but it never feels like it's sucking the life out of your lips. It is transfer proof. I don't think it is as long lasting as some other liquid lipsticks on the market, but it's just so incredibly easy to apply. It is easy to reapply without getting gunky or crumbly or weird. So I love, love, love this formula. It smells like the best cake batter of life. The shade that I think is an absolute dupe for Charlotte Tilbury's Pillow Talk is the shade Infamous. The shade and the undertone are just absolutely spot on to Charlotte Tilbury's Pillow Talk. And I have to tell you, when I first bought the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk liner, I thought, oh, I'll be able to find a dupe for this. No problem. So I went into Ulta and I went into Sephora and I took my lip cheat pencil and Pillow Talk and I had it on the back of my hand and I swatched every brand that had swatches, and I couldn't find a dupe for Pillow Talk. I think that part of the reason that shade has gotten so much hype over the years is because it really is different than the majority of nude shades that most people have in their collection. Another mid-toned nude that is more warm than Pillow Talk. So if you like a mid-toned nude, but you prefer something with a little bit more warmth to it, I would recommend the shade Super Cindy. This was developed after a shade that she loved putting on Cindy Crawford. As you can see, this shade is got a nice warmth to it. It definitely has more of that peachy undertone again. This is one of her matte formulas. So I'm really excited about the dupe that I found because it is incredibly affordable, and it is from Essence. It is part of their Matte 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 line, which came out last year. The shade 01 is so close to the Super Cindy shade. It has that same matte effect on your lips. It has that same peachiness. I mean, honestly, side by side, but the only difference I can say is that the Essence shade might be a tinge bit darker, but the undertone is spot on. The texture is very similar. Next time you're at Ulta, check out the shade 01 from Essence. I think it's a really cool shade that for just a couple of bucks you could add in your collection and be super happy with. Many times when I am looking to buy a high-end lipstick, I try and find a color that I think is unique. So something that I don't have in my collection or something that I don't see very frequently frequently out in the market. And for me, one of the very first shades that I bought that kind of fit that bill was the shade Walk of Shame. Now, Walk of Shame is another one of her matte formulas, but it's a really interesting color. It's like a rose that has a little bit more brick red in it. I sometimes refer to this as like a desaturated red. So it's like take a red, suck out some of that color, move it more towards the center of the color wheel, and you get this sort of red that's not overpowering. I like to wear this shade for work a lot when I want a lip that is maybe a little bit more impactful than a nude, but I don't want to wear a bright red. So in my head, I was thinking, oh yeah, I've got lots of dupes for this shade potentially. I had nothing. The closest that I have found in my collection, and then also just browsing through Drugstore for quite a while looking at shades, is from E.L.F. And this is a moisturizing lipstick from E.L.F. in the shade Marsala Blush. Now, I like their moisturizing lipstick formula. I think it's very, very comfortable. Obviously, you're going to get a little bit more shine with this than you would with the Charlotte Tilbury. The other thing I would say is that these do need a little bit of building up. They don't go on patchy, but they tend to go on a little sheer and take a couple of coats in order to build up full opacity. If I was going to call out one difference, it would be that this E.L.F. lipstick is maybe a tinge lighter than the Charlotte Tilbury, even after a couple of coats on your lips, but the undertone is so similar to it and the final effect is so similar. So if trying one of these sort of desaturated rosy red shades appeals to you, if you like the undertone, I would highly recommend trying this E.L.F. one, see how you feel about it, and then if you feel like you want something that is a lot more pigmented and a lot more full coverage and maybe lasts a little bit longer, maybe this might be a good one to splurge on from the Charlotte Tilbury line. So last year, Charlotte Tilbury launched a lipstick called the Queen in honor of Queen Elizabeth II. And one of the things, if you follow Queen Elizabeth or you've read any of her biographies or watched any documentaries on her, you will notice that she likes a bolder lip. It's one of the things that I kind of love about her. She doesn't wear a lot of makeup. She's never worn a lot of makeup, but she does like a bright sort of raspberry lip. I think it looks great on her. I've read quite a few biographies on Queen Elizabeth. I have loved watching The Crown on Netflix, and I have a lot of respect for what has taken her as a female monarch, just thinking about how it has changed for women in positions of power and the type of role that she came into when she came into it and at her age, and how she has just handled all of that pressure with such grace in a time frame that wasn't very respectful of women in roles of power. So I love that Charlotte launched a lipstick in honor of Queen Elizabeth. This is a really, really beautiful deepened raspberry color. And once again, in my head, I thought I had quite a few shades that would match this and quite a few shades that would dupe this, right? And once again, Charlotte has proven me wrong. So what I've found when I have swatched a lot of different sort of hot pink or raspberry colors is that one of two things happens. One, the shade is actually a lot more pink and a lot more bright, so a lot more of a hot pink and less of this deepened raspberry. Or on the flip side, it ends up being a lot darker. So I have two dupes here that I want to share with you guys, but I will tell you neither one of them is 100%. So the most affordable option here is from Wet n Wild. This is the shade Cherry Picking. It's a really pretty color. This is not my favorite formula at the drugstore. They do tend to have a little bit of a tug and a pull when you put them on. They are very, very saturated colors though, so super intense pigmentation on them, so I can't fault them there. The other struggle I've had with these is that because this doesn't actually screw all the way down, I frequently am like banging the edge of the lipstick into the cap and it's just getting filthy and gunky underneath there. So not my favorite lipstick design. I really wish at a bare minimum they would allow me to pull this completely down into the bullet before I put the cap on. Tangent a little bit. This color is pretty close. This shade is just a smidge more hot pink and a smidge more vibrant than the Charlotte Tilbury. So another shade I wanted to throw out is from ColourPop, and this is the shade Poppin'. This is one of their Matte X formulas. So this is the mattest formula that ColourPop does. This is what I would equate to the matte retro matte lipstick. So they can be a little bit drying. You need to put down a lip liner or definitely make sure your lips are exfoliated before you use them. This is the shade Poppin'. It's just a smidge darker and deeper. So you're losing a little bit of that brightening effect, and you're picking up something that's a little bit vampier when you move to Poppin' from ColourPop. So if you think you might like this color, I would absolutely recommend picking up one of these shades and seeing how you feel about it. Just know, I think this is a pretty unique shade out on the market. Okay, next up is a shade called Tell Laura, and this is a really bright orangey red. Now, I love these bright orangey reds, especially in the summertime. For some reason, I think they really make blue eyes pop. And I'm super excited to say, I think I have found a dupe that is not only a very similar formula dupe, but is like so spot on color-wise that you couldn't even tell the difference between the two of them. And that is from Soap and Glory. This is from their Sexy Mother Pucker line. This is the shade Fired Up. It is one of their matte formulas, and I've dinked the top of this so it's kind of smushed looking. But I have to tell you, this is every bit as saturated, every bit as smooth, every bit as creamy, every bit as matte, every bit as comfortable as the Charlotte Tilbury lipstick in Tell Laura. And on top of that, the shade is spot on. To be honest, if I had known about this dupe before I bought this, I probably wouldn't have bought this. I would have just bought this. It even has the same sort of vanilla scent as the Charlotte Tilbury ones. Now, I will tell you, I saw these marked down in my Target store a ton the other day. So this is a shade that you might want to search on Target and do a find it in store and go in, because I think these were like $2 or $3. But if not, this is a brand that Walgreens carries, that Target carries, and I think that Ulta carries. I can't 100% remember. I will put a notation on the screen and confirm that. I love this. I think it is absolutely gorgeous. And this was such an exciting find for me when I realized that these were spot on to one another. Okay, so last lipstick, and this is another one I think she's really known for because she does so many red carpet looks, and she's been known for doing like a soft smoky eye and a red lip on so many different celebrities. And so as a result, she put out a red shade called Red Carpet Red. And this, I think, is another red that's kind of hard to do. It has some depth to it that a lot of reds don't. And then on top of this, it's a very neutral red. So what I mean by that is it doesn't lean very warm, but it's also not super, super, super blue-based to the point that it almost looks pink. Sometimes blue-based reds can almost read a little bit pink. This one's right in the middle. It's very neutral. And as a result, I think this is why it's a red that works on so many different undertones, on so many different celebrities when she puts it on them. I will admit I didn't have a chance to take this into Ulta or Walgreens and do any sort of additional duping, but I have a fairly large collection of red lipsticks, and so I was kind of surprised, and yet I wasn't, when I only found one thing that was somewhat similar. And what I ended up finding was not actually a bulleted lipstick. From a shade perspective, it's actually one of the L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte Glosses. Now, I have to admit, I like this formula. I know some people haven't cared for it. I've really enjoyed it. It is one of those formulas that goes on a little glossy and feels like a liquefied lipstick, but then the longer you wear it, the more it settles into one of those kind of soft matte finishes. So I think the undertone of this is spot on to the Charlotte Tilbury one. I would just say that this one is a hair brighter and more vivid, but I think that if you wanted to try out a red that is 100% neutral. So I think if you wanted to try a red that wasn't too orange based, wasn't too blue based, wasn't too light, wasn't too dark, just kind of right there in the middle, this is a fun one to try from the drugstore. And I think it's a good way to kind of experiment with what I would consider to be a true classic red. Wraps up my Charlotte Tilbury lipstick dupe video. I hope you enjoyed it. I was really excited to find some really affordable dupes that could save you a lot of money. Like I mentioned in the intro, make sure to check out the corresponding blog post. I'm going to have lots of photos out there and a cheat sheet of these products side by side so you can look at them while you're potentially shopping in the store. I'm actually getting ready to film a second lipstick dupes video for some of my other luxury lipstick products. I'm not sure when that one's going to go up in relation to this. I'm probably not going to do them back to back, but that one is coming. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think about dupe videos. Do you like them? Are there other products out there that you would like to see me try and dupe? I could probably do one on highlighters or potentially blushes, or just look at my luxury makeup and try and see if I can come up with dupes for you guys. I know I love watching dupe videos. It makes me want to run out to the drugstore and find something super affordable that is going to be as awesome as something high end. I hope you guys are having an amazing day, and I will talk to you soon in my next video. Bye.